إن الحمد لله تعالى نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ونبيه ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. All praise and glory be to Allah. We thank Him and we seek His help and His guidance and His pleasure and His forgiveness and His protection from the evil whispers within ourselves and from the potential awful consequences of our evil deeds. For whomever Allah Azza wa Jal guides, this is truly a great gift that no one can ever take away. None can ever misguide that person. And whomever Allah Azza wa Jal and His perfect justice and wisdom leaves without guidance, none can ever guide them. And we testify that no one is worthy of our worship and our devotion and our love and obedience in the most absolute sense of those two words, but Allah and Allah alone, without any partners, the true supreme King. And that the Prophet Mohammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam was in truth, without doubt, His Prophet and His servant and His messenger, and the best of His creation and the seal of His revelation, and the most beloved of the slaves of Allah to Allah. After welcoming my brothers and sisters to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this final stretch of Ramadan, and after reminding myself and you with the taqwa of Allah to live a life of consciousness to Allah and dutifulness to Allah Azza wa Jal, consciousness of Him and dutifulness to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning to live a life that is consistent in our love and our adoration and our devotion and our compliance with Him Jalla Jalaluhu. May Allah grant us and you a life of taqwa until we meet Him, beginning in these blessed moments in Ramadan. May He renew our taqwa and rinse us of whatever may haunt us of our past, and make us of people of consistent devotion to Him and endless hope of Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. To begin, one of the most useful ways to evaluate how much rinsing has happened in Ramadan is actually a question that many people think about, and it always circulates and is expressed to me and to others about shaytaan in Ramadan. People often say to me and other speakers and preachers and teachers and educators, is shaytaan really locked up? Because if he is locked up, then why are people still committing atrocious acts and evil deeds? Is shaitan really gone? And the answer to that question is actually very eye-opening and very enlightening about ourselves. Teaches us much about ourselves. And is he gone? I often tell them, honestly, it's not clear. It's what are you talking about? Every shaykh I've ever met in my life told me shaitan is gone in Ramadan, and they even said there's a hadith about this. So it is unlikely that all these shuyukh and these scholars were wrong. What's more likely is you may have misunderstood or heard from them what you wanted to hear. The Prophet ﷺ never said shaitan is gone in Ramadan. I have to admit it. He said, تُسَلْسَلُ الشَّيَاطِينَ. The devils are chained up. That's what he said, ﷺ. If we want to project on that and say they were chained up and thrown into another universe, fine, but you're not going to find as much evidence for that as you think. And does it make a difference, chained up or gone? It could make a difference. Because chained up might mean that they're simply restrained from doing what they can ordinarily do. Their whisper isn't as loud. Their influence isn't as penetrating. That could be what it means. They're on a tight chain. And that being the case still does not change the fact that the human shayateen were also not intended by this hadith. There are shayateen among min al-jinnati wan nas, Allah told us. Whispers among humankind and jinn kind. It is the jinn that are chained, whatever chained means. And also on top of that, Allah Azza wa Jal said to us that everybody had to face them. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَا لِكُلِّ نَبِيٍّ عَدُوًّا شَيَاطِينَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ. We have destined, al-insi wal-jinn, we have destined that every prophet is going to have to face enemies from humankind and from jinn kind, يُوحِي بَعْضُهُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ زُخْرُفَ الْقَوْلِ غُرُورًا, that inspire one another with the best strategies to come at you with. And so whether there's a hadith or not, we all already know and feel that shaytaan is more restrained. We're more willing to do good. We're more hesitating towards evil in Ramadan. This is clear. This is beyond doubt. We feel this. But at the same time, there are human beings that are on autopilot, working the works of shayateen and sparking what he likes to spark all year round. And the third answer is that forget these full-blown human shayateen, there certainly is an imprint, a stain of shaitan on every human being that lingers even in his absence. And so to evaluate now, not the presence or the absence of shaitan, what is more helpful here is to evaluate how much has shaitan imprinted on me, how much of my personality has been stained. Because he tries to stain more and more and more whenever he can, wherever he can, until he becomes more and more part of the stain, becomes a part of the fabric of your nafs, a fabric of your psyche, if you want to call it that, a fabric of your personality. Deeper and deeper and deeper, he tries to make headway. And so to evaluate these qualities that he loves to see in human beings en route to trying to destroy them. So the scholars said these qualities are different types. The first of them is as-sifatul bahimiyya. When people have the personality traits of the cattle. You know the cattle, like livestock, like sheep and lamb and cow and otherwise. What is their day like? What is their mindset about? It is eat, drink, sleep, mate, repeat. Right? That's what their day revolves around. And much of this is part of the human condition. It is natural. But he wishes for you to be hyper-focused on it until your night and your day revolve around it. This is what where am I going to get my next meal from and my next drink from? So greed and lust and laziness, this is what he wants in the human being. If he can make enough room, headway, he can influence you, stain you enough in that direction, then he pulls you to the next level. The next level, they said, are as-sifatu sabu'iyya. These are the predatorial qualities. The qualities not of cattle, but of predators. The qualities of the wolves and the tigers and the hunting and the predatory animals. And this is naturally the next step, because when you become too fixed on your greed and your lust and your laziness and otherwise, right? This world doesn't have unlimited options, right? This world, the nature of this world will not satisfy you. This world is not the vastness of Allah's mercy. It is very finite. It is very limited. And so your greed being unlimited, right? And this world being so limited is what causes this predatory quality to arise in human beings. This is what causes aggression, hostility, animosity, transgression on others, because we can't all have it all. And so that is the next level he wishes to drag a person down into. And then when a person falls into these come, the stain spreads that far, then he plummets them, he takes them down to a further pit, a third layer here now, which is what the scholars say as-sifatu shaytaniyya. These are the satanic qualities. You think the qualities of Iblis himself, like envy, hasad, right? Like makr, scheming and plotting and otherwise. Because predatory animals don't do this. Predatory animals, they're triggered and one thing leads to another, and you think in the human experience, oh no, I hurt them more than I really wanted to. I didn't mean for the conflict to escalate to that point. It sort of happens unintentionally a lot of times. The predatory animals don't sit there and envy and have like ill feeling. They call it premeditated murder, right? To premeditate something and scheme and manipulate and deceive and exploit and otherwise, that is a satanic quality. It is not the quality of any animal. That is shaitan himself. But what is very frightening here is that shaitan does not want you there. Shaitan knows he's doomed and he thinks you're the reason. And so he wants you beneath him. He wants to get you to a point where you have qualities that even the shaitan himself doesn't have. The pit below him, he wants you under his feet in the fire, wal-'iyadhu billah. And that brings us to the fourth level, downward, which the scholars say are as-sifatul malikiyya or as-sifatul rabbaniyya. These are the qualities of the Rabb, basically, God-like qualities. And for any created being, any human being, to make a claim to a quality that is God's makes you the worst of the worst, right? As if you're the king of the universe. Because shaitan never did that. Yes, shaitan defied Allah Azza wa Jal. Yes, shaitan had kibr. He had this arrogance. But if you pay attention to the ayat and hadith very carefully, he was not vulgar with Allah, really. He was not confrontational. It's like, why didn't you do this? He would always like try to change the subject. He'd say, but he's not better than me. Adam's not better than me. He was trying to be indirect about it. Whereas it was only among humanity that people were vulgar enough to say, as Fir'aun once did, أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى, I am your Lord, the Most High. And it is not just Fir'aun. This is important to realize. It is not just Fir'aun. You know, one of my teachers, who is a physician, he says, I personally heard a cosmetic surgeon say, I'm just fixing his mistakes. Wal-'iyadhu billah. I'm just fixing the mistakes of this human being, his face or his hand or otherwise, that God made. Wal-'iyadhu billah. But it is not just someone that vulgar. You know, in English, by the way, they have a word for it. It's called the God complex. When you have this like feel that you're almost like God. Anytime you allow to settle in you this idea that you must be right and that you are perfect and that all of your qualities are better than everyone else's qualities, that is a signifier of that level, of you potentially having slipped or about to slip, being stained, contaminated to that degree. And so this is what shaitan wants from every last one of us, and he flows through us year in and year out. يَجْرِي مِنْ ibn Adam مَجْرَى الدَّمِ, the hadith says. He flows through the son of Adam the same way his blood flows through him, the pathways of his blood, trying to find any inlet to poke and prod and stain to get you as far down as you can. And then Ramadan arrives and he's chained up. He's pulled back. And our job here and now is to rinse off as much of that stain that we have absorbed. You know, like a sponge, when it absorbs some ink, some stain, if you wash it out and squeeze it really good, it looks like the stain is gone. But if you put it back under the running water, you'd actually find more ink coming out, right? It takes work. And that's why Ramadan is not a day. Ramadan is a month. And the 10 last days are more important than the first 20, but also keep in mind to rinse. Exercise is hard work, right? To exercise our own restraint. Exercise that rinsing and that squeezing and getting all of those out so that shaitan does not set us up. We want him to come back and find his work ruined. We want him to come back and find us at a better place that insha'Allah we will retain some of it, and every year in Ramadan we will do more and more of it and build on where we left off, or at least a part of where we left off, on the up and up insha'Allah. And so he works all year round, and so Allah blesses us with Ramadan to give us a break, to stack the odds in our favor. Otherwise, as Al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah was asked, أَيَنَامُ Iblis? Does Iblis, shaitan, sleep? قَالَ إِذًا لَوَجَدْنَا رَاحَةً. Had he slept, we would find some rest. He never rests. He's relentless. So we thank Allah for Ramadan, for holding back from us his relentless assault. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعد أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ونبيه ورسوله. As the early Muslims would say, Alhamdulillahi ala ni'matil Islami wa kafa biha ni'ma. All praise and thanks be to Allah for the blessing of Islam, the favor of Islam, and it is enough of a blessing. Because were it not for the devotional framework, the system Islam puts for you, you would never rinse. You would not be able to rinse. This is why taming our nafs, our whims, and our desires, keeping them on a firm chain, right? Because we all have desires, but some of us have the tiger of the desires, right? The animal within, we have it on a string. Other people have it on a chain, right? Part of what Islam does for you is to create for you that frustration tolerance, and I can resist, and I can be stronger, and it teaches you you're stronger than you think you are, and you can do better than, and so it stops the slippery slope. Were it not for Islam, humanity would not be able to ever make headway in this. And just to close, by the way, this is very Quranic. This interpretation, this understanding, this sort of visual I tried to give you is grounded. The scholars got it from the Quran. Because Allah told us the slope of human personality, of them are those that are ammara bisu, of them are those that command you to do evil, whether shaytaan is there or not. And then you climb up to a point where you're conflicted. And nafsul lawama, the personality that's like, has this inner conflict. They do good and said, oh, maybe I should have just donated half of it, right? Then they do evil and say, oh, I promised I would never do that again. They're conflicted, right? And then you climb, the third type of nafs we hear about in the Quran is a nafsul mutma'inna. The nafs, the personality that is content with Allah. That is the nafs that has full conviction. And because of that conviction, it's content with the upward climb. Grateful for the guidance its Lord sent. It sent him or her. And acting on that opportunity to say, Allah has saved me from someone that has sworn to destroy me. And were it not for Allah extending that rope to me, I would never be able to do this on my own. So may this Ramadan be a thorough rinsing of us all. May it be a chance for renewed appreciation and renewed love for Allah who sent down the Quran, and Allah who guided us to Islam, and Allah who placed for us a roadmap to escape our vices and break free from shaytan's chains and flush out of us the stains He has imprinted on us all year round. Allahumma ameen. May He grant us life so long as life is good for us, and put us to death whenever He knows that death is better for us. Forgive all of us, the living and the dead, and cure everyone that is sick, spiritually or physically or emotionally. Allahumma ameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and guide with us, and make us a reason for others to be guided in the future. And may He make our last words from this world, us and our loved ones, La ilaha illallah, Allahumma اغفر لنا وارحمنا وإلى غيرك لا تكلنا اغفر لنا ما قدمنا وما أخرنا وما أسررنا وما أعلنا وما أنت أعلم به منا أنت المقدم وأنت المؤخر وأنت على كل شيء قدير اغفر اللهم لنا هزلنا وجدنا وخطأنا وعمدنا وكل ذلك عندنا نعوذ بك يا ربنا من همزات الشياطين ونعوذ بك يا رب أن يحضرون اللهم أحينا ما علمت الحياة خيرا لنا وتوفنا إذا علمت الوفاة خيرا لنا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.